Now, we're going to be talking about the Lufthansa heist. And that was a robbery at JFK Airport. December 11th of 1978, actually, anniversary was just yesterday. Estimated 5.87 million, which is the equivalent to about 23 million in 2019, was stolen, with 5 million in cash and 875,000 in jewelry, making it the largest cash robbery committed on American soil, well, at that time. It said that Jimmy Burke allegedly was the mastermind of the robbery, but he was never officially charged in connection with the crime. Burke is also alleged to have either committed or ordered the murders of many of those involved in the months following the robbery to avoid being implicated in the heist. The only person convicted in the robbery was Luis Werner, an airport worker who helped plan the heist. The money and jewelry were never recovered, and this is on the way to the location. Main subject of many TV films, $10 Million Getaway, The Big Heist, and it's a key plot in the film Goodfellas. This heist was one of the longest investigated crimes in the U.S. Still arrests happening in 2014 as earliest. Now, the heist was allegedly planned by Jimmy Burke and carried out by several associates. The plot began when bookmaker Martin Krugman told Henry Hill, who's an associate of Burke, that Lufthansa flew in currency to its cargo terminal at JFK. The informant the information had originally come from Luis Werner, a worker at the airport who owed Krugman $20,000 for gambling debts, which is equivalent to $84,000. Today's modern translation. And then you had also his co-worker, Peter Grunwald. They had previously been successful in stealing 22,000 foreign currency from their employer Lufthansa in 1976. Burke allegedly, and as we see, this is cargo 261, which was the site of the actual robbery, where this all went down. It's obviously gated off. You can't make your way there now, but you see where it was. So Burke decided on a couple of people: Tommy DeSimone, Angelo Seppi, Luis Cafola, Joe Monry, Paulo Licastri, Rob McMahon as the robbers. Burke's son Frank would drive one of the backup vehicles, and a guy by the name of Stacks, his job was to dispose of the van afterwards. Now, depending on, their role in the robbery, each participant was to receive anywhere from 10 to 50,000. However, those amounts were based on the estimated haul, which was only 2 million, compared to the actual take of 5.875 million. The guy Warner was to receive a flat 10% of the take. So the actual crime in 1978, December 11th, around 3 a.m., 6 men in a black vehicle, which was a Ford Ecoline, pulled up to the Lufthansa Cargo Building 261, which is what you're looking at now. The padlock on the gate was cut off with a pair of bolt cutters. Some of the crew climbed up the stairs of the East Tower and entered wearing ski masks and gloves. A late model Buick was positioned in a terminal parking lot with its lights off, which, the parking lot you could see straight ahead. Inside the terminal, John Murray, a senior cargo agent, was the first employee to be taken hostage. He was walked into the lunchroom where 5 other Lufthansa employees were on their meal break since 3 a.m. in order to lie flat on the floor with their eyes closed. Murray was asked who else was in the warehouse. He gave up those names, and those employees were as well eventually captured and all put into one central room. And then, meanwhile, outside the terminal, Wallen, who was one of the guys that was, captive, noticed 2 unmasked men sitting in a black van parked at the Lufthansa Cargo Building 261 ramp as he drove past. He parked and walked toward the van. And remember, so he, we know that he was with them in the upstairs room. But, he was, prior before being taken into the room, he was already pistol whipped at that point. Kind of roughed up in the van. So, inside the warehouse, an employee heard a noise by the loading ramp and went to investigate. He was captured, brought with Whalen now again to the lunchroom to join the others. Some of the robbers took a guy by the name of Elrich at gunpoint to the double door vault. They removed 72 15-pound cartons of untraceable money from the vault and placed it in the van. Now at 4:21, the timeline, the van pulled to the front of the building and the crash car pulled in behind. 2 gunmen in the van. 2 gunmen climbed into the van as the others got into the Buick. The employees were told not to call the police until 4:30 a.m. when the first call was to police was recorded. The robbers drove to meet Burke at an auto repair shop in Canarsie, Brooklyn. The boxes of money were removed from the van, placed in the trunks of 2 automobiles. Burke and his son drove off in one car. 4 others drove away in the second car. Now, what had happened, as far as the investigation, the guy Stacks, he had failed to get rid of the van that had been used in the heist. He was supposed to have driven the van to New Jersey, where it, along with any potential evidence inside, was to be destroyed in a junkyard. Instead, what he had done, he had gone a little bit sloppy, parked the van in front of a fire hydrant at his girlfriend's apartment, where police discovered it 2 days after the heist. Now, Edwards went into hiding because of this. He realized he messed up, and they were looking for him. And eventually they did find him, and he was killed. But because of that van being found, fingerprints were lifted of several perpetrators from the robbery. The FBI identified the Burke crew as the likely perpetrators within 3 days of the robbery, largely due to discovery of that van. They set up heavy surveillance following the gang and helicopters, bugging their vehicles, and even the phones at Robert's Lounge, and even payphones nearest to the bar. And the FBI did manage to record a few bits of tantalizing chatter, despite the background sounds of rock and disco music, such as apparently Angelo Seppi telling an unidentified man about a brown case in a bag from Lufthansa. It went up in smoke. The perfect plan had unraveled. Now, as we're going away from the airport, hopping on to the Bell Parkway, which would have been the way that they would have traveled to get to Canarsie had the plan gone right, which it didn't. It all unraveled. So later on in the investigation, when Whalen, remember, who was the employee who was interrogated by the authorities, he was shown police archive photos, and he was able to pick out one of the assailants. That's what went on to happen there as we're on the belt. So, during this time frame, a lot of murders were of the Heist associates, right? Of the Heist associates. Burke, he didn't want to get caught. He didn't want to be caught as a mastermind here. He realized that Edwards failed to dispose of the van properly, which was a big problem. And it made Burke think that, listen, now I have to get rid of anyone that could implicate me in being connected to this heist. So Edwards was gone, right? Which was Stacks. But this was a first in a series. So he died in 1978. Martin Krugman in 1979. And it said that Krugman's remains were actually buried in Robert's Lounge. No one has been able to confirm that. Again, Robert's Lounge now is a Caribbean restaurant now at this day and age. Richard Eaton was also killed in 1979. Tom Montaloni in 79 as well. Luis Cafrola in 79 as well. And his wife in 79. One of the night shift Air France cargo supervisor, longtime Burke gang associate, had inside information at that point, helped plan the heist. Manry, he was killed in 1979 as well, just another name. Tommy DeSimone, which was another name that we had mentioned here, killed in 79 as well. Angelo Seppi in 84. So you could see it, a very complicated situation, story, and many twists and turns. So in April of 1980, Henry Hill was arrested on unrelated narcotics charges. And he at that point became convinced that his former associates had planned to have him killed. So he went to the Witness Protection Program. And here are some clips from that famous incident many years ago. Hope all is well, and I will see you in the next video. Mahalo.